Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Out of the Park 23 as the Minnesota Twins. And wow, so this is me recording kind of just after I've simmed over the end of the trade deadline. And the reason why that's important is what a day for this to happen. Of I mean, if this just happens yesterday, I make a move at the deadline to pick up a center fielder. Like it's not like I'm sure there were people out there that I could have went out and got that could have been, decent enough options, but because of the singular day in which that happens, it means I now have to look internally. The plan will probably be to play Royce out there as my center fielder once he gets back in 3 days. This injury was not anything super major, just a day-to-day sore ankle. I didn't want to chance it, taking advantage of the IL only being 8 days. Means he misses 3 days extra. But when I'm ahead by so much in the standings, I don't need to worry super closely about it. I'd rather just try to avoid injuries. We did also have, two of our big pieces in our bullpen also get injured for a while. Nardi should at least be healthy again, ideally at the beginning of the season, if not for spring training next year. Colby White, obviously, that's 10 months. That's much rougher. That's a June return and then a rehab and probably a trade deadline esque return for Colby White would be my guess next year. So that's rough. Losing two of our biggest pieces there. We did make some replacements. So I guess let's talk about those first. Traded for Ryan Presley and Nick Anderson to be our bullpen replacements, essentially for Nardi and White, and because I have had some struggles with my bullpen. Presley, All-Star this year, very very good for Houston, just as good for me. Kind of slots in at the back of the bullpen, very good. Nick Anderson, kind of as well, is having his best season probably at this point. I don't know that I would expect quite this much from him. Obviously, you can see that the ratings here just are not nearly as good as they are for Presley, but I still think he can be a solid back end of the bullpen piece for us as kind of replacements for White and Nardi. I think we did okay. And because they are both rentals, we really didn't have to give up much of anything for either of them. Presley, I think Houston just wanted to be rid of the contract. I did make this trade not right at the deadline, and at that point, Houston, they must be on like a 6 or 7 game winning streak because they were well out of it at that point. But I guess trading their closer emboldened them to start doing well. But I still don't feel super bad about making that trade. And then Nick Anderson Oakland is also out of it. And both of these pieces were really nothing pieces we gave up. We traded this guy, Jaden Nolan, who's kind of been nothing. And then for Nick Anderson, it was the catcher. Yeah. So, they're playing him in left field, I guess. Yeah. I mean, neither of them are really pieces that were doing anything. Campbell was having a pretty good year in A-ball, but yeah. So those were the two deals we made at the deadline. I wish Buxton would have got hurt a day earlier so I could have traded for a center fielder. But I think because of how well Polanco's playing, this kind of lets me keep him in the lineup. And then we just move Royce to center and kind of continue that way. So that's really the biggest updates there. We could talk as well All-Stars, because we're playing so well. We do have a decent amount of them. Let's keep scrolling. This one. So Jacob deGrom makes the All-Star team and also gets a contract extension, $21 million for next year. I have plenty of money available to me. I'm not worried about this at all. He's been outstanding. My plan is probably to keep re-signing him until he retires. I mean, you have the option to have a guy like this on your team, you take it. So, yeah. Additionally, Colby White makes his first All-Star team before being out with the injury. You can see Anderson and Presley here as well on our team. Jose Miranda makes the All-Star team. Jorge Polanco, mostly as a DH. Is going to be playing a lot more second base for me down the stretch, though. But, I mean, this is going to make it harder to turn down this team option of I was definitely planning on turning that down because there's not a super clear spot for him. But I mean, coming off a year like this, I mean, it's like this is definitely career year for him, right? Like he's not going to do this again next year. But if he plays even to this kind of 2022 level, then the $12 million should still be fine at that point in time. Uh-huh. Kirilov makes the All-Star team even though he was injured for most of the time. Part of it is because he is extremely popular, but also like there just really weren't any good left fielders this year. Like I remember when I was doing my voting for it, there wasn't really anybody that looked like they were really any better than him at that point. So I was kind of like, okay. And then Buxton as well. Unfortunate that we've lost a couple of those guys due to injuries now, but we'll see kind of how we do down the stretch. Really, the goal is to just stay healthy in the last 2 months of the year. We have this 10.5 game lead over Cleveland. I'm not worried about winning the division at this point. I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. So yeah, it's just kind of going to be seeding. Where are we with Texas? We are 5.5 up on Texas. So we're even in a pretty good spot to be looking at the number 1 seed coming into playoffs. So that will be good to be able to make sure that we can line up our rotation to have DeGrom, to have Alcantara, and then +1 for game 3. I haven't decided where that'll be. That'll be kind of dependent down the stretch. Gomez is back in the rotation. He's been better as a starter than as a reliever. Just as the reliever, he just was pitching very poorly. I had made the couple of other attempts. Rozek I had as a starter for a little bit, but his splits are definitely the opposite. He was not great as a starter for me, and he's so good out of the bullpen, and he's the only lefty in my bullpen that felt more important to me. As well, Barland was rough after kind of that first couple good starts. It just kind of got worse and worse. So we ended up sending him back down, and we're back to the original starting rotation. Kumar Rocker is finally healthy, so we'll see kind of what that does, where there's potential there. Austin Lope's been pretty decent. Klassen had a couple of really good starts to begin his career in AA. He's been a little bit rougher since then. But pitching, I think, should still be a strength of the team. I think that these are a lot of really good arms that we have, so that feels good to have that going into the playoffs. Kerstad has been much better than Chappelli as far as being kind of this 4th/5th outfield role. Can also play a little bit of center. The 60 outfield range makes him more or less Kepler equivalent in center. He'll play center for these next 3 games while we wait for Royce to come off the IL, and then he will take over kind of being a 4th outfield type who still is playing 3 to 4 times a week. And then Kirov's kind of our main DH, and probably will put him as like a if starter retired as well, just to have more pieces available. We're mostly just kind of relying on the bat for him at this point, as opposed to the glove anywhere. But yeah, that's the team. The bats are doing pretty well. We'll see how they handle the loss of Buxton. Was probably the 2nd or 3rd best hitter on the team at this point, so losing him hurts. But we're 2nd runs scored, 2nd runs against. See how we're doing compared to our Pythagorean, something we seem to struggle with. Okay, so we're actually 1 above it this year. We're playing pretty close. 130 run differential puts us as the best team in the league, even better than the Dodgers, and by far the best in the American League. Where 2nd place is Toronto at 63. So we'll see how much the loss of Buxton hurts us down the stretch. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to replace the offense, hopefully, even though there's not a piece in our system that can replace him defensively in center. And this is really, I think, showing why signing this contract for Royce is going to turn out to be a good thing. Of even though he might not ever be this type of bat again, if he's a league average bat who I can play everywhere important, then to me that's worth even the 13 million at the end of those. Like this team option we might not take, down the road in 2032 and 8 seasons. But if he's a guy who can play second, short, center, I mean, you like those pieces. I mean, and that's, to me, that's really the differentiating factor between him and Austin Martin. When we traded Martin, is Martin can't really play short or center. Whereas Royce being able to play center is going to end up being very big for us. And it's why I think one of the things I'm going to look to do this offseason is to go out and find another center fielder. But also, if it turns out that Kjerstad is just okay in center, then he might just be the fourth outfielder if he can hit like the way that he has been this year. I mean, obviously, I don't expect him to hit at a 140 OPS plus WRC plus level with these ratings, but I mean, if he hits at a 120, then for 3-4 years that could work as a fourth outfielder who can cover center field decently. But that's where we currently are. I feel pretty good about the state of the team, minus the very unfortunate timing on that Buxton injury. So I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.